Welcome guys, welcome to this video. In this video we're going to see Laravel relationships. So here I have a player's data, and player belongs to a suburb, then a club, then a country. Player has a few cars, and each car has a brand. So we're going to be displaying this data using relationship, and I will show you a few examples. So let's get started. So starting with the database, I have a Laravel database here, and these are the tables in it. So the main table is players. In player I'm storing name and suburb, so suburb ID is here. Then if we go to suburbs, there we have the ID of suburb and the club that suburb belongs to. Then we go to clubs, we are storing the name and the country. Now we also have countries, so here only we have the country name. Now also I have a few more tables. So here I have cars, players own what car. So here we are storing make and player ID. So make is the year, company who's manufacturer of the car, and in the brands table, and those are present here. About the file structure, I'm currently having Laravel application. It's completely blank. I'm just showing hi here. So if I go to the text editor here, you can see that in route I have web.php, where there's only one route, which is powering welcome blade, which is here. Now if I go to welcome.blade, I'm just saying hi here. Then there is player data, but I don't have it currently, so it's not showing there. So we're going to get the player data using models. So if I go to the app, HTTP, and models, we have models for each table. So here I have player, suburb, country, club, car, and brand, just respective to the tables we have here in database: brand, cars, clubs, countries, just like that. So to work with, to show the data, first of all we need a controller. So I want to change this route here, and I want to create a controller. So for that I'm going to use the terminal, and its name going to be home controller. Alright, now this is going to create a controller. We go here, there is the home controller. Now here I'm going to add a method, function, I will call it index, and simply index will do the same thing that we are doing in here, returning the view. So you can cut this, paste here, so this will take it to view directory, and welcome.blade is going to display. So this is how it's going to be. Now here I'm going to call that model as a class, and we need to pass the method name, which is index. So if I go here and refresh, it's an array actually, so we need to pass here like this. So first we have the URI, then we have array, and we have home controller index. Now we have this showing up like this. You either can do this way. If I refresh here, it works. Now either you can put on top, so you can say use, and here you can remove this. So now it is going to do the same thing. So refresh, it still works. Now we have home controller powering our page. I want to get the data from a player using the player model. So if I go to player model, you will see here I have fillable, and there are these fields. Now if I go to database, we have player, and here we have name, height, income, suburb, and you will see name, height, income, suburb, and the contact details. So the suburb is suburb here, so I need to remove the ID. So contact details, yeah, these are the fillable fields here. So what we need to do, we need to create a relationship here, but I want suburbs as well because it is directly related. So if we go to players, we have suburb, and then we have suburbs where we have the suburb names and clubs. So let's create a function. So it's a public, and here I'm going to say return, and this is going to return $this, and then this player belongs to a suburb, so we're going to call belongs to, and here I'm going to pass the class, which is the suburb, and it is a class. Now the first parameter is foreign key, so in suburb, in players we have suburb. So if I go to the player, we have the suburb set up here as an ID, so we can pass that here, so suburb. And the second parameter is local key, so that is going to be the ID, owner key. So that's basically the suburb key, this one. Alright, so it's going to get us the data. Now, this is how you define a relationship. This is a basic relationship belongs to. Now, if I want to get the players as well as along with the subobs, the name of the subobs, so what I will do, I will go here and I will simply call the model. So I would say with, and in with, we pass the name of the relationship. So here, you define the name here, subobs. So I just go back, pass this name, and then I say here, get. Now I'm using get here, it's going to get all the records, but for now it's just fine because we have 10 players, so it's alright. But if you have thousands of records, you might want to limit this. So here I'm gonna say $players equals this, and in Laravel we can dd to check the data, what data we are getting. Now here we go, and let's refresh. Now here we get the array of 10. I expand it. Now let's open the first value. We get the originals. If I go there, we get the player name and subob 3, ID 1, details about player. You will notice there is a layer relations. Now I go there. We have subobs, as we are calling for subobs. And inside subobs, we have original. Let's see. So we get the subob name and the club ID, subob ID. So you can see that subob is 3, subob ID is 3 here, and we're getting the subob ID 3 and its name. So using this, we can print this name. So if I go to the welcome.blade here, after hi, what I do is simply put this. Now we need to pass the player. So here we are not passing players currently. So I just comment this, and here with the view you can pass with, and instead of with you need to call this. I will call it players, and the second going to be the variable. So it is going to pass as players. So now in view, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say $, players. So it's going to get the values. Now we want to show value of subob name, right? And we also want the name. So first what I do, I simply get the name. So I simply say here players name. Okay, now refresh the page. And name does not exist. So what do we do in that case? We simply var dump here. Var dump. That's the reason we are not getting name here, because we have multiple players, so each player has a unique name. So we need to loop through these players to show the data. So I simply say here add for each, and I pause this, then as, and here this time it's going to be player name, and then if I refresh we will get the name. So you can see here if I add here break, so we should be getting the names. So you can see that we have the names here. Now we want to show the player belongs to what's above. So alright, and then here, and as we are calling the, if we check here, we're calling the relationships above, so we can call it here too. So we simply say subverb, and then we can call name. Alright, so if I refresh here, you will see that we get this above name. Now if I go back and dd, remove the dd here and refresh, you will see here in the data we have the name of the player, then we have the relation. Here in relation you call subobs, then you call inside the subob name, and that's where it prints the name. Anyway, this is where it gets from. So that's how you print it. So if I remove this, and that's how we are getting the name. So here what I'm going to do, call it suburb. Alright, now let's refresh. So we can say name suburb, and after each player I just put HR, so we see each player's data. So we have name suburb of each player. Now let's get we get club this time. So to get the club we need to go, now if you see in the database we have player, we have subob, inside subob when you go we have club ID, so we can use that. So if I go to subob here, we can look for clubs. So here I simply say public going to be $this, and here we are going to say belongs to, because each subob it belongs to a club, so it's going to be belongs to, and then we're going to pass the club, and it's a class. Now here the foreign key again, so for the subob, and when you get subob you have the club here, so you can pass that club here And what it refers to inside club table ID. So inside clubs ID. So we need to pause here, ID. All right. Now, as we have clubs inside subbobs model, we can use it. So here, where we are saying players get with subbobs relationship, now we say, okay, we also need the club for this player. So all we need to do, if you pass the name directly, so if I copy this and I put here, it is going to look for this relationship inside player. So if I go in player, we have subbobs, but we don't have clubs. Clubs is inside subbob model. So to access this relationship, we can pass here, subbobs dot clubs. So now it is going to get the clubs as well. So let's see. So if I move the comment and see the data, we have same 10 records here. Now this time we have player name, relationship is 1. We have subbob. We open this. We have the subbob detail. Inside the subbob we have relationship again. Open this. We have clubs. Inside this clubs we have the data for that club, the name and the ID and the country. The same way we can get the country too. So what we do first, that's the country as well. So I comment this out. And now to get the country, we need to go inside club. Now inside club, because club, if you go into database, each club has country ID, so we can get the country. So let's do that. Let's try the relationship here. It's going to be simple as well. We'll see more advanced examples because each club belongs to a country. So here I pass country class. And I believe you already guessed it, the foreign key going to be country, because in clubs table we have country. So that is going to be the foreign key. So we pass here country. And the another key we need to pass here is going to be the ID of the countries table. So we get here the ID. So it refers to that ID. So here, ID. And by this, we should be having the countries. So to display this, now we're getting subbobs, subbob.clubs. Now to get the countries, we need to go one more level ahead. Dot countries. All right, so here, this way we get, because clubs is the model where we are defining the countries, we cannot directly call it from player because we don't have that relationship here. We have it inside clubs in here. So that's why we are saying subbab clubs and countries. So if I see the data this time, refresh again. Alright, now spellings are correct. Let's see, refresh. We got the data. Let's go inside it. So we have a player, Ellie, and then we have a relation here, which just has a subbob. Inside that subbob, when I go, another relationship, which has a club. Then I go inside it. Then we have inside countries. And inside the country, we have Costa Rica. So you can see that in the clubs data, we are referring to country ID 10, which is here. And in the subbob, we are referring to club ID 8, which is here. And in the player, we are saying subbob 3. So we have the subbob 3 ID here. So our data is correct. So what I do is simply add this and display this data on the front page. To do that, I go here. Now this time we need to show more data. So here we say, here I want to say here club, which player belongs to which club. So here subbobs, and then I say here clubs and name. Let's see if we are getting it. It's going to be arrow. And I refresh. We get the club. So to show the country, we all need to do is just going to paste here. So we have clubs, countries, name. Now let's go here back and refresh. So we get countries as well. Georgia, United States, Indonesia. So we get the data as we expect. Now let's see how we get the data if we don't want to use the player model. We want to use some other model. Let's say we get the data from subbob. Let's do that. And we want to pass the relationship. And what relationship we need to pass here? We already defined the relationship in Subab class, so I bring it here. So we have clubs here, but we don't have players. So we need to define the players because we want to show the players. So it's simply copy this here. And to here I say get, but what relationship? We already have one relationship defined, which is clubs, so I'm going to pass that relationship here. So if I check this, currently it is going to give me Subab and clubs data. So if I refresh here, yeah, it's giving us error because we don't have name to player, because here it is expecting player name and all that, but we don't have the data for that. So let's do that. What we do here is we get the players. So I go into Subab and define a relationship. So here we say, yeah, it's going to be has many, because a Subab will have many players. A player belongs to a Subab. So a Subab can have more than one player, so it's going to be has many. And here I'm going to call the class player, and it's a class. Now in player table we have a Subab field, if you remember. So if I go to players, we have Subab. We can pass that here, and it is going to refer to in the Subab table ID. So this should get us the data. So now we can use this. So I'm just going to go there and I'm going to say, okay, we want to use this one. So we want to pass this. So we are passing it straight away because it's Subab we are defining it. So we have both the relationship here, so we can call it like this. So if I go here, we should still be getting error because the data is different. We are not having player right now, so we're just gonna comment this one. And here I'm going to DD this data so we can see what data we are getting, because the outer data this time we'll be getting the Subab, and then we will be getting clubs and players. So let's see, refresh. So here we have 10 records. So the outer data we have the Subab first of all. So the Subab ID, Subab name, Subab as this club. Then you go in relationship. This time you see two relationships because these are both defined inside Subab. Both are here. And we are calling straight away. So we have clubs. Inside club you can see club name, club country ID, and the same way player. So we have player, and we can see the player details as well. So to show this detail, we need to go inside these players to display this detail. Are we getting the point? It is not that previously here we had the player out on the outer way. Now Subab. Let's do the same way, and we get the data using clubs. Using club, how we can get the data. So if I go to the club model, we have countries there. So how we can do this? So what I do is simply complete the statement first. So I say void, and here get. Now we need to pass the relationships. So we do need to create a relationship between Subab and clubs, because in Subab we have clubs, but in clubs we don't have Subab. So let's do that. It is going to return, and I said all of this belongs to. Now why belongs to? Because each Subab belongs to a club, and each club has one Subab. So this way we pass here Subab. It's a class. Now again it's going to be club in ID. I hope you got it. We have Subab, and in Subab we have club. So if I go to the Subab database, we have club. So we are putting club as a foreign ID, and this ID referring to the ID of club table. So we should get this. So I'm just going to copy the name here, and I'm going to pass this name here. So we can get the clubs in Subab. It's quite similar. Now the thing is we want players as well. Because main motive is to show player data. So how we get the player here? So we know inside Subabs we define players. So for this case, what we can do simply, we can say Subabs done players. So it's going to get from Subab model, and there it's going to go for players. All right. If you get the point. Now when we go here, refresh. I have to add this DD here so we can see the data. and refresh. Now data will change again. Let's see. So the first label data is clubs this time. We will add club name and country. Then we have relationship where we have this time only suburb and we are getting null. So here I said belongs to. So club might have multiple suburbs. So we need to use here has many in this case. So this is going to be better and it should be working because a suburb belongs to a club, but club might have multiple suburbs. So let's see this time, refresh and go back and see relationship. We have suburb and this time we have data. So you can see there we have the players. Now we're getting players because we also call the players here. So yeah, here are the player, here is the suburb, and on the top level we have club. So you're getting all the data just correctly. Now let's see how we can do it using country model. So I'm just gonna copy this. I don't have it open, so I'll open this model. We don't have any relationship set up here. So what relationship we need to pass, we need to check here. So clubs directly belong to country. So if you go to database and you go inside clubs, we have the country ID. So we can use clubs to deal with the country. So here what I say, I simply create and here we're gonna say return $this, which refers to this class, and I'm going to pass has one. Now why has one? We have each country has one club here. Now in real world there are going to be more clubs in country, but here in our particular application we don't have that kind of structure. We just have only one, so it's showing that way. So here going to be club, which is a class, and then the country. Now this country is because it's inside club. So if I go to clubs table, we have country. It refers to in countries table the field ID. So it should be fine. Now this clubs, we can use it here. So country, and I'm just going to pass this relationship. It's going to be clubs and get. So it's going to get us the country and the club, but we still don't have the players. Using a relationship, you have the access to clubs. And then if you see the club model, you have access to suburbs, and using suburb, you have access to player. So you can access that here. So what I do is simply put comma here, and clubs. So here need to be clubs, and after that we need to pass suburbs. And after that we need to pass players. So it's going to get the player for each country. So let's see, if I go here, refresh, and here first we get the country. So let's say this is a New Caledonia. Now here relationship, we simply get the clubs, and here is the club, and then relationship again we have suburb, and inside the suburb we should be getting the suburb detail, then another relationship, and then we have the player. So we have the player data coming up here. So this player is having suburb ID 8. You can see that it's suburb name and suburb ID 8, which matches. Then we have club ID 10, which is here, club ID 10, and country ID 1, which is the country ID 1. So we are getting the data as expected. Now let's see how we can get the data when users cars and brands, all that data all together, so that we can display in the table. So main point is any model you work on, if you have access to the relationship of that model, you can get the data. So in the way we have country and we have access to the clubs, country directly not dealing with suburbs. So in our database, in countries, we only have country name and ID. And in the club, we have country ID. But we want to print the player data. So using relationship, we are using country, and when we are calling country, we are using club, and using clubs we are getting suburbs and players. So that's how relationship is very useful. Currently we don't have any, and here I say simply get the way we are doing. just gonna copy and paste this here. DD at the bottom. So let's get a brand model itself. Here we don't have any relationships, so let's write in one. So here what I'm gonna do. So we have cars. If I go here in Laravel, we have cars, where we have the car detail as well as the player ID, and then we have here brands, and there we have the ID of each brand. So what we can do, we can get this ID of player and you can use with it. So here in brands table, what I'm going to do is $this, and I'm going to use has many true. Now let me show you how it works. So I'm going to pass here player class, alright, and then I'm going to pass here another class, which is going to be car class in this case, and then we need to pass IDs, keys, sorry. So here I'm going to say player. In a moment I'm going to show you how it works, and the another one is going to be ID. Alright, so here we are passing the players relationship. So in brand we created this has many true, so we are passing player class, and through car class we are getting the data. So if you go into here, you will see that in I go to cars, we have player ID here. So we are using this player ID to getting the brands and players. So if I go in text editor, we are saying player field as a first key and second key is ID. The player key is here in the cars. So that's how we're getting it. And let's see if we're getting the data. So if I DD this and go back to the site, we have data records, and if I open these records, you will see the main data is coming as the car brand Holden here, and then relationship is 1. Inside I have players, and I open it, it's empty, right? So that's fine, because there might be there's no car of Holden, so we can try another one. So here Nissan, here player, here we have one record, and you can see that we have the name of the player as well as this Bob and the details. So this is working. So I'm just going to comment this one out, and now let's do this. I'm going to show you display all the data in table. So for that, what are we going to do? We're going to say we're going to use the main query. So going to be player model, and then I'm going to say width, and here I'm going to pass first suburb, and then we need to pass suburb dot club. Alright, the same way we did here, and then the country, so I can just copy from here this and pass here, right? And after that we need cars. So for cars, if I to pass, we need to define it. So here in player we do not have any thing related to cars, but we can create one. So we just go and create cars model, and here I'm going to create in cars we need to define a model as relationship as well, and I'm going to say return $place, and here I'm going to pass belongs to. Now we're going to pass belong because car belongs to a manufacturer, so a brand, so it's going to be belongs to, and here it's going to be brand model, it's a class. Now here we are going to pass an ID. Now if we go to cars, here we have make, which is the brand, so here I'm just going to pass this make, and the second is ID for the table of brands. Now this should get us the data we are looking for. So if I go here, I can pass here cars, and we put here cars dot, let me put it new line, so we can put here cars dot brands, so we can have this data. I'm going to put this in all this. And also I want to create a relationship in players for cars, because we have the player ID here, so we can give a direct relationship between cars table and players table. So let's do that. Let's create that relationship. So here in players, I'm going to earn all of this. It's going to be has many, because a player can have many cars. So here's a car. And in our app, in this test app, we have a player with multiple cars. So it's a class. And here in car, we have field name player. And in players table, it's ID. So we can pass this here as well if you want to. So if you want to pass this in here, you can do that. Now the thing is, we are already getting the cars here, so we don't need to pass this cars here like that. So we can simply leave this. Now here we are getting suburb, clubs, and countries, so we don't need these suburb clubs. So this is going to be enough. So these two relationships we're going to pass to get all this data. So let's check this data. So I'm just going to copy here, and if I go and refresh the page, now you will see all the data about our player. So first level is player, so we get the player detail, then we go inside relationship. Now noticeable thing is we have suburbs and cars. So here we have suburbs and cars, and inside suburb we will have these two. So we are going to see that inside suburb. Another relationship, we have clubs, and inside that we have another relationship, country. So we have all this going on. So here we get country data, here we get clubs data, and here's suburb data. Now also for cars we have empty atom. Alright, that's because this particular person doesn't have that car. So if I remove this one and check the second record, original is this, Florian. And here relationship, we go inside car straight away, and here we have a car. So here you can see that we have 2006 model, this car, and then we have brands as well. So yeah, some players don't have cars, some players have cars, so this is something like that. So to display this data, we can do this. So we are passing players, and inside the welcome.blade here, we need to move this. And we have this commented code. I'm just going to uncomment this now. So here simply we are checking for the variable players. We have the table head, where a row has the table field's name, player name, suburb, club, country, income, say cars. Then we have players, and here we are getting the player name, player suburbs. Let's see if we're getting it on the, you can see that we're getting all the data just like that. So we are getting the player name. So if I show you using DD again, you can understand from there. So I refresh this. So in our welcome.blade we have player name. So here if I go in second record here, you will see the first label data is players, then we are going in the original here, then player name. So here player name, then we have player suburbs name. So here we go inside relationship, and then in suburb, and then here we have the name. So that's it's printing from. Then we're getting player suburbs clubs name. So just like that, you go inside another relationship, clubs, and then there you have name, and so on. That's how you work with it, and that's how it's working and printing all the data. Hope you liked the video. What I do, I just going to wrap this code into a zip file, and it's going to be totally available to download. You can see how this code is working, and you can practice your way. And if you find some improvements, you can suggest in the comment section. So you can go from there, and this is how you use the Laravel relationships. There are going to be some useful articles and links in the description, so please check them too. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.